Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Gonna be an exciting one. I am joined by my good friend Ash for the first time in a while. How you doing, my man?
It's been too long, bro. I didn't even know you were back uploading. No, I'm kid. I kid, dude. I kid. I watch all your videos. It's great to be here, man. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. Yeah, as I kind of got into working with Fateless and doing all
Yeah.
that, I kind of got out of the workflow there for a little bit, and now I'm going to GDC. I fly out to California this weekend, so it's gonna be a busy week for sure. But I do want to get back to daily uploads, and when I get back, the grind is gonna continue. So we'll definitely be collaborating more than we have been the last few months.
No, I'm looking forward to more collabs, man, and also still get to talk to you quite frequently with the Fateless stuff. So yeah, we haven't been strangers, even though we haven't done collabs recently.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I wanted to release my dopamine index and just to kind of walk you through what this is. So, I wanted something that people can pull up when they're pulling shards because there's so many exceptions. There's like 50 champions at this point. Like you can't pull Ninja and you can't pull all these different champions that aren't in shards. So I wanted a list that people can have up. It's like, okay, out of the champions that are available, if I pull my first copy, how excited should I be? Just something like that. And obviously there's going to be different opinions and different perspectives and people are going to disagree. And that's what makes it fun. I'm here for it.
Of course.
And the reason I like doing it like this, like numerically, is because I think so many times people are like, oh, they're A tier. Oh, they're S tier. But no, I want to know, like, if you move somebody up, you got to move somebody else down. I want to know, like where it stands numerically, and then I'll go through and I'll update this like once a month or whatever, release a new video, bring people on for their reactions, you and Hell Hades and other people, and get a lot of different perspectives here on this. So I guess first of all, do you agree with like how I tier it in terms of like top 10 or S plus, top 25 or S? And then top 50 or A plus.
You've always been like this, man, which is I commend this in your approach, but you've always been pretty adamant about like there can only be a set number, otherwise people could just say everything's S plus or whatever, So is that, I'm assuming you kept that same kind of mantra here in this list.
Yeah, I don't like to be a fence sitter. I like to make people hammer down an opinion.
I like that.
So,
I like that.
I kind of do it.
And you're absolutely right, dude. From a dude who some might argue has maybe even done one too many ranking videos from yours truly here. You're right. It's easy. I feel like it's easy in the comments to be like, dude, you snubbed blah, blah, blah. But then it's like, it's a much different conversation about like, okay, tell me the 5 champions are going to move down, to make room for that champion too, because there's a lot of good champions in this game.
And there's always the like, well, so-and-so's really good in this situation with this team, with this gear. Like,
yeah, like so, no Muck Stalker in the top 100, dude. He's the Sand Devil, the best in the world in the game. So yeah, you're right. There can always be those more niche arguments, in one particular area. I only have one question about this. It seems pretty intuitive. I like the exercise as a ranker myself, as a lister. I love it. Only one question. Did you take rarity into consideration? Meaning, like, obviously, I'm going to be way more excited about pulling a, I don't know, trying to think of like an average legendary. Let me just go to the bottom of the list, right? I'm going to be more excited about pulling a martyr than a geomancer, just because of the rarity. I'm not saying that I'd rather have geomancer in more situations in games. So like, how did you parcel that out? Or any mythical, basically, because they're so hard to get,
Yeah, that's a really tough one. And I did a little bit. And I also did have some people help me on this. So I got a little bit more perspective than just my own. I didn't want to be like too biased, but I feel like, in that situation, something like Geomancer is going to be more of a composition unlocker, and he's going to like really speed up a lot of content for you compared to like a Martyr, whereas like, an endgame player is probably going to use a Geomancer more than they use a Martyr. But you're right. Like there's all sorts of context that goes into it.
Sure. I'm being that guy and asking like stupid questions.
Oh, it's good. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
But I love the exercise overall.
Cool. Well, then, I was releasing it as like a, parcel, but I'm going to be too busy going to GDC. I can't do 10 videos, releasing them 1 through 10, 11 through 20. So I'm just going to get it out there on the board. We're going to, release the whole 100, and we're going to get Ash's perspective, kind of first out the gate. Is there any that you definitely disagree with or you think are like too high or too low or anything like that?
Yeah. Should we start at the top? I guess we start at the top, right?
Sure. So, yeah, we can.
You rank Sify the Lost Bride as the #1 champion in all of Raid Shadow Legends. It's very difficult to argue that, Chosen, but she wouldn't be my number one. Nothing against it's so this is like I'll give the disclaimer once and I'll stop freaking saying it, right? Because like I think she's an S plus tier champion, right? Obviously, she's one of the best and most wanted champions in the game for a reason. She has one of the highest win rates in live arena, and her overall utility everywhere else is insane. I would have put her at number one before her nerf. Taking that A2 from a 3-turn to a 4-turn win booked. But she just wouldn't be my number one personally because I have Sify the Lost Bride, and I just see others on my account as I just get more utility out of them overall. Not to say that again, I felt like it sounds like I'm a Sify hater here. That being said, I definitely put her top 10, on my list. But I can kind of see probably why you went that direction too, because if you look at a lot of the others, the top champions in the game, they're either they excel like insanely in one particular area. For example, like a Yumeko in PvP, right? Number 2, or a Newt in PvE at number 4. So like, but where Sify, she's really insane everywhere. So I'm assuming you put her number 1 just for that versatility factor potentially.
Well, and think about it like this. So let's say Plarium was doing a promotion and every new account gets to pick one champion they start the game with. Who would you pick? Who would you pick?
It wouldn't be Sify.
Who would you pick?
I would go. Okay, so first of all, this is probably going to be a super controversial thing to say, but I'm a Duchess over Sify guy. I think I'm probably in the vast minority there. That being said, who would I pick? I think, again, because I am somebody who would probably go for the, if I was starting a brand new account, I would take rarity into consideration because I know how hard it is to get a mythical. So I would definitely go mythical. And when I look at this list, the first thing that pops out at me is I would generally rate mythicals higher, I feel like, just generally speaking. So I would probably pick Star Sage Galathyr as my choice. Maybe Alaz the Sunbearer as well. Like those two would be very close to the top for me because I would or Androck, right? Like, or the Lizard. So I would go with a mythical is what I'm trying to say, I guess. Star Sage is cool because he has everything in the entire world. It feels like from one support champion, like revive and then everything else. And then obviously Androck because having an AoE 100% enfeeble changes the complexity of everything in this game. Like almost every single boss, clan boss can't stun. Dragon can't do poisons.
Androck was actually number 1 until a few days ago. You see
okay.
Yeah, you see the trend arrow down. Yeah, he was. Because they're making a change to how the enfeeble works. Yep. But he was number 1.
I have not heard this. Where has this been released and what is the change?
Well, you know how it was like completely trivializing every boss with the enfeeble, but that's going to change at some point.
How so?
It is. I was hearing that it's not going to be applying the same way that it is. Maybe that's not confirmed or whatever. But the people I was working on this with told me to move him down because enfeeble is that's going to be changing.
Okay, so here's the move. Is I actually made a sorry, I don't want to get you in the weeds here, but I made a video on Androck. I borrowed somebody else's account. I don't have him on my account, and so the guy who let me borrow him was like, "Hey, I heard there might be a change coming." And then, for what it's worth, dude, like I talked to one employee, at Plarium, and I'm like, "Hey, I heard there's going to be a change coming before I make this video on him." And then they're like, "No change that we're aware of." And then I watched the video on the horse, his name's the Gallant or whatever, and Marius. I watched their spotlight and he was like landing enfeeble on all the bosses, and I'm like, I wonder if they're not going to change it. But anyway, I digress, dude. Okay, I see where you're coming from with like moving him a little bit down, but I guess I would probably go Star Sage. So I'm assuming you'd go Sify.
I would probably because it's a lot easier to book my Sify. Like if I'm on a new account,
that's true. That's true.
How long until I'm going to be able to max out those mythical tomes? So yeah, if Plarium lets me create a new account and I can pick any champion, I'm going Sify for sure. And I might be a little bit biased because I've never had a Sify, and I just get so tired of losing to her over and
never had
over
a Sify, bro?
And it's just. I always have to face her, and I always get crushed in live arena, tag team arena, and she's in every single team, and it's just so annoying that I don't have her.
I hear you. I hear you. She's amazing choice, dude. I have absolutely no complaints. But again, if that was a 3-turn cooldown in the A2, I think she would be S plus tier for PvE as well. But right now, I feel like she's like I would probably just take Duchess overall over even Sify personally, even though it's a non-void, just because I love Hydra too. I think it's about where you love in the game too, right? And she's still amazing in arena and blah blah blah. But yeah, so we're splitting hairs here at the top.
In PvP, do you fear Duchess more than you fear Sify in PvP? I don't. I fear Sify more.
Oh, I don't. I fear them the same. Is that a cop out? I'm not trying to fence ride, but I don't fear either of them like I do a lockout. You know, Warlord, Yumeko, Crixia. For me, they're going to get an automatic ban for them like 9 times out of 10. So like I fear the lockouts first and foremost in PvP. So if I was PvP ranking this, I would definitely go with Crixia personally as my first choice. Like if it was just a PvP dopamine or whatever, and then Yumeko like right after Crixia. I have Yumeko and Crixia, and I use Crixia personally. But again, we're splitting hairs here, and at the same time, I hear you on the mythical tomes, but I still would go mythical, and is hoping I could get my hands on some if it's like literally the best champion of the game. But I guess the one that pops out to me a little bit as maybe a snub in the S plus tier is actually Marichka. Again, everybody's probably going to think I'm absolutely crazy, but this is the beautiful thing about tier lists, right? Is I would probably go Marichka over Sify, personally, you know?
I think that would probably be true if you have Marichka and Taras. You know, like if you have both of them, then I probably put Marichka way up there. But like I have just Marichka, and I don't have Taras, and I just get clapped over and over. Like
I have both, and I like Marichka. I would take Marichka over Taras personally.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Because I gravitate towards support a bit, even though Taras is amazing, obviously, you know?
But, like, I feel like the accounts with Taras are, like, viewed as way more valuable, like, in the community. It's like, if someone's doing an account giveaway or whatever, the one question they're always curious about is, do they have Taras? And if they don't, it's, like, worth less, you know? That's like the one thing everyone's looking for.
I need to start buying all those accounts that don't have Taras and have Marichka instead. Yeah, I'm pretty like obviously another unpopular opinion, which I love bringing to the table, bro. But I gravitate towards the support, and I think that Marichka without Taras is more valuable to an account, generally speaking, than a Taras without Marichka. Only reason being is, yeah, again, Taras, like, don't get me wrong, man. Like I would still have him S plus tier, like as a top 10. That being said, though, I think personally, Marichka with just her passive is so ridiculous.
I gotta hold you to that. So if you put Marichka and Taras in S plus, who are the two that come out?
No, Taras is already in S tier for you.
So you're right. So who's the one that comes out? Yep.
So I would take out Kaimar for.
Oh, okay.
For Marichka. Yeah, I love Kaimar too. He'd be he'd basically be a swap at like 13 on my list. You know what I'm saying? So we're really splitting hairs here, but
that's what makes it fun. You have to kind of split hairs, yeah, because they're all amazing, yeah.
Yeah, they're all amazing. But for me, like I'll say it one more time and then I'll get over it. But like Marichka is absolutely just busted insane. One of the best heals in the game, the strengthen, the cleanse, the extra turn mechanic, the block damage off poisons, off bombs, the revive. She's
joining in with allies is super underrated. That's huge.
She's just, and Taras is awesome. He's tanky and deals a hell of a lot of damage. But I just feel like personally, what they both bring to the table, I feel like it'd probably be a bit easier to get a damage dealing monster, not like Taras, but a replacement on my account, I guess, than it would be Marichka, even though both of them obviously are irreplaceable. You could also say about Sify that, like, if you don't have a Rhodos, wouldn't you just go like a Duchess over a Sify or something like that? But anyway, I'm kind of splitting hairs here at the top. So, yeah. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, no, that's all fair. Let's keep sliding down
like
a little
White
bit.
King. White King, I love. I would.
Yeah.
Let's look at the 11 through 25 range, the S tiers.
Okay.
The S tiers.
Yeah.
Feral Barkhorn, I think he's pretty dang high, man. I wouldn't have him that high. Again, I think he's great though. Cardial, I agree with. Marichka, I agree with. Crisia, I'd probably put Crisia a bit higher. Shuzen, I think, and when I say a bit higher, I mean like flopper with Feral or whatever, you know? So I'm, again, splitting hairs a bit here. Geralt, I agree with. Harima, I agree with. Night Queen, I would have higher on my list.
The big one to talk about is
Armand's
Armand's, because he's the event
tough
champion.
yeah. Have you played him on the test server? I have not. I
have not, no. But
okay,
I've seen just hilarious clips of him like permanently locking down everything, like removing turn meter. Like I mean, obviously, if you're making a tier list of just like waves content, he'd be like #1. But
yeah. Well, you know what? Listen, I feel like I'm splitting hairs a bit. Armand's, I don't. Just to finish that thought, personally, this is a super cop out, bro. But like, I don't like talking about champions that I haven't played ever or seen anybody ever play. But it feels like this could be correct, you know, like he's hard. If I was doing a list, he'd probably fall around the same area, you know, but it's conjecture. It's tough. I think Python is next level. I would have Grazer over like Mighty Uko. I probably have, again, I gravitate inherently towards support because I think damage is a bit easier to replace.
Yeah, and I think that's smart because in a team, you usually have more supports than damage dealers, so you need more of them. So I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think Shuzen is so special, you know. But then again, like if I have an arbiter, like I don't know, it's tough. It's tough. But personally, though, I can tell you, like for sure here, if I look at the S tier in terms of outliers, I think that Theodore the Savant is amazing, but I probably have him in A+ tier. I'm just trying to make room for the other champions I disagree with later, right? I don't want to always talk about ones I'd move up, to your point earlier. I'd probably move down Armands and move down Mighty Uko and move down Feral out of the S to the A+ to make room, and Theodore. So that's 4. And I'd probably put in Georgid, Elva, Sun Wukong, Warlord. That's 4 for 4. But I really want to find a way to add Lady Mikage. I think the biggest snub that I've seen so far, in my opinion, is Lady Mikage at 47.
Yeah, and the reason for that, because I agree with you actually personally. The reason for that is because like in terms of dopamine, if like the first like
you're right.
Yeah, like if the first mythical champion you pull is one that you can get, like
you don't want to pull a Raz and Scarhide.
Exactly.
Legendary.
So if she wasn't a fusion, I would have her up at like 23 or something. Yeah.
Okay, you know what? Then that would be my swap. I chose 4 S's to move to A+ and 4 A+'s to move to S. But I'm being so you know, they're all amazing, man. So a couple other names that I think a lot of people might put higher is Sulfurion. Dude, I don't have him, but what I've seen, I know a few like close friends who play who do, and golly, seeing one of the best burn activators who's also a reviver, that's an interesting kit, man. You know.
And he's one that I don't have, but I know I've seen him in some ridiculous comps for sure.
Yeah.
And then you start getting lower into some of like the composition unlockers, like Maneater and Demetha and like Seer as like the wave clearer that everybody wants on their account. I had to put her really high because everybody wants a Seer, and you're gonna use her everywhere. So like if you haven't pulled a Seer yet, that's a huge moment when you get her.
I agree. I would put. Again, I'm reticent of putting lower rarity champions high on a tier list because, you know, just how difficult some of these other legendaries and can be to get. With that said, the 2 exceptions to my rule or whatever would be Seer and Cold Heart in terms of rares and epics that I would actually be like, if I was a brand new account, like what the sort of content those 2 champions can unlock. I would actually probably put Geo there too, like those 3, right? Do you think there's anybody else that belongs on that list in terms of like the same level?
I'd say for a new account, maybe Stag Knight. He's so ridiculous, just for progression, and he's a lot more realistic to book than like a legendary or I know when I do account takeovers for like new players, one of the first things I look for is if they have Stag Knight, because I'm going to use him everywhere if they do.
That's fair enough. I I love Stagnate, but I don't put him. I don't put him. I don't see him as the same level of unlock personally.
No,
But
that's why I've got him
you
down at
know,
98. Like I don't
no,
have
no,
him.
no. Fair,
Yeah,
fair,
yeah.
fair. Yeah. But what do you think, really quickly, before we move lower on the list? What do you think of my 4-for-4 swap? Do you think that I'm crazy with any of those, or you're like,
No,
what do you?
no,
Yeah.
and it's funny because some of the things you say, I agree with you personally, but I was working with probably like 3 or 4 different people on this, and sometimes they talk me into different positions. But
For sure.
yeah,
For
some of the
sure.
things you say, I do actually agree with. If it was like just me, but there's some people, yeah, like I even jumped in
Behind
a
the
call with
scenes.
Saf for a little bit, and was like,
Yep.
hey bro, can you give me like your input on this, Saphira? But
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. There's a massive snub here, and I'm looking for. I might have missed her, but I would say the biggest snub or my biggest disagreement with the entire list. I want to. I might just be missing her. I've got to be, but I'll say the name. It is Archer Queen. Where is she? Like
Well, you
N
can't
Narragante, whatever the
you
heck.
can't pour from shards. She's like
Oh,
going,
okay,
yeah.
okay, okay. I'm like, where is she, dude? This is
Yeah, no.
broken.
So
Where's Ninja?
when I was working on this,
Yep.
and she might still be available in shards, but she's going away like any day now, isn't she? But
Yeah.
but if she when I did have her on the list like a week ago, I think she was like number 11 or 12. Yeah, she was like way up there. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, I was just making sure. I'm like, where is she?
Yeah.
And then also, because people might be watching this video in a year from now, like some of the brand new mythicals, like Gizmac the Terrible, for example, right? Like he's been in the game such a short amount of time that it's tough to judge their full potential, Uh, but yeah, I think that some of them are really interesting. And overall, I'm curious, Chosen, like, especially since you took a little break, not from playing, I'm sure, but like obviously you had a lot going on. How do you feel about the new crop of like, I guess the power creep landscape of raid? To me, it seems like mythicals are really starting to put some space in between what you can expect for like a bare bones mythical versus an average legendary,
Yeah, I don't really like it personally. I don't like the direction the game has gone since Primal Shards were introduced, but it's tough because I understand where they're coming from. Raid's been out for 5 years now. Like they have to keep innovating. So I don't necessarily blame anybody for it, but I know personally for me it's gotten really hard to keep up with they're releasing like 40 champions a month, it feels like.
Right.
Like I just
Right.
can't I even as a content creator who works with all these people in the community, it's hard for me to keep up with what's going on.
Yeah. No, I 100% hear you there. It can be overwhelming. I think that overall, like mythicals obviously are not going away. I don't hate them. But I also, well, whatever. I don't want to get into a super side tangent, but I think it's also undeniable that they are. I mean, they just keep coming out with better and better and better mythicals, right? In case everybody hasn't noticed. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see which direction they kind of head. Again, Warlord, I'm a fan of Warlord, man. I think that Warlord is, I think the 3 lockouts, maybe I'm too PvP oriented in my opinion, but I think the 3 big lockout champions, the legendaries and the 2 legendaries and the mythical, I think that they're just like so next level. And they're also really good outside of just lockouts for their own reasons, like Warlord as a support and a healer, Yameko as also a reset champion, and Crixia as a reset and the buffs and the debuffs.
Yeah, and if you look at the red arrows that like Warlord has, there's some of these champions.
He's down.
There's some of these champions like 2 years ago they would have been top 10. Like
yeah.
Like
remember when we started, bro? Like
yeah.
You were my first collab ever, and I want to say, like, I could be making this up, but I want to say I asked you like who the best legendary in the game is, and you're like Martyr.
Yeah.
Back then it was becoming in 5 years.
Yeah, back then the consensus was Valkyrie and Martyr were the top 2 legendaries. It kind of switched between the two, but
you're absolutely right. Some people were Valkyrie guys or gals, and some people were Martyr, and it was just like that was the big thing. And hey, they still made the list. They both made your top 100, which I guess is something. I guess, right?
I mean, a lot of insane power creep. You have some of these like old school champions, 2019 Andes, like Battle Khazar, would have been like top 15 back then.
For me, another kind of outlier. I'm just kind of scanning the list, right? Of like, because it's hard to honestly, it's hard. I'm sure, like obviously this is what every tier list is like, but it's hard to figure out who's not on the list, who I disagree, who I would be like, where's that champion or whatever. But I will say, just generally speaking, one type of champion that I really, really, really value personally, and again, I just my own personal preference, and that is ally attackers. Obviously I've mentioned a couple of them like on the list that I would probably have a little bit higher or whatever, but like I think that Lana Thero, for example, like he would be in my top 100. I haven't seen him here. Maybe he's on the list. I don't know. But I mean, talk about an underrated champion. He's got like that great shield and that really strong ally attack with increased crit damage on everybody. He's not in my top 50 or anything like that, but I would definitely have him over like most of the epics and stuff on the list, like lower down.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I can see. I think you're right. I should probably have like the top ally attacker on there. Whoever it is.
Yeah, like Fat Man. I'm not sure if you have him on here, but like I would take Ferric and the Fat as well over a lot of epics. I just think that ally attacks are so damn strong, man. Like I just think it's incredible because in ally attack, a lot of people don't think about it this way, but ally attack just keeps getting stronger because raid, especially over months and years, they just bring out a lot better champions that have a lot better A1s, and obviously that benefits every ally attacker,
And they're adding so many abilities that have cooldown manipulation. I feel like all of the champions that come out, they like when they hit, they increase the cooldown or they decrease an ally's cooldown. They've added like 15 champions that have that in the last like 3 months.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. You can get some crazy synergy out of. It's weird, like being a game designer and coming up with new compelling champions nowadays. There's so many things you need to think about. Like, how is this going to interact? To your point, like, now they have a bunch of mythicals who like give all ally buffs on their A1s, like increased defense on all allies or whatever, and it's just like, think about every single crazy ability that gets added to an A1. It just makes every ally attacker better, in conjunction. So that's one area that I'm always like kind of, where do you have, UDK is unpullable from shards. Is that correct? I forgot.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Okay.
Otherwise, he would definitely be on there for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
And to your point, champions that fall by the wayside that are champions like Dracomorph, like used to be just god tier, but now like placing AoE defense down on a 3-turn cooldown is just not good enough. Like
it's kind of the standard now that you expect, right? You're right. Definitely power creep is a real thing in the game. But overall, man, I think you guys did a hell of a job on the list because it's an impossible task because with everything in this game, it depends, right? It depends.
And that's why we always give the caveat on any list is like, you shouldn't take it as, gospel. Like it's just a resource. It's for entertainment. Cause it's going to depend on your account and where you sit in the game and who you can synergize with and all that.
I will say though, like I mentioned her in passing as one of the ones that I would add up on my list, and you already have her very high at 31, but Elva Autumnborn is a champion that I probably would have ranked lower, like when she was introduced to the game than 31, but she's grown on me so much. I think she's just one of my favorite revivers and healers and cleansers and everything in the game. She has a really, really, I think, just underrated kit that doesn't necessarily jump out the page at you until you've used her a lot, but she's just one for me, like I said, that's kind of just grown on me, like the more that I use her.
Yeah, no, I mean, I could definitely get behind bumping her up a little bit. I do love Elva. I use her all over the place for sure. And one of those that would be amazing to pull for a new player. Anybody that's early game would use her everywhere.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, but otherwise, man, it looks pretty good.
Nice. Well, I appreciate you stopping by and hanging out with me for the release of the full top 100, and it's something that I'll keep up to date and release a video once a month or whatever. And you're obviously always welcome to be a part of those discussions and all that.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you bringing me on. I love a good tier list, and I felt like we had some pretty fun combo around it too. So thanks for having me, dude.
Thanks for your input, and I'm sure all of you know who Ash is, but I will link to his channel down below, so definitely head on over there and check out his stuff. So appreciate you, brother. Have a good one.
Take care, dude.